Welcome to Fuzzybutts and Friends. Well, as much as it drives Fuzzybutts all over this great big world of ours absolutely crazy, I am the host of this show, Luke Robinson, Yer Big Dog, and I'm happy to welcome back again this week Ginger Morgan. She's the executive director of the Puppy Up Foundation, and she's also our co-host from time to time. Ginger, how are you?
I'm doing well, Luke. Thanks for letting me join in this time.
Hey, it's always good to have you in the co-pilot seat. It's always a pleasure. With walk 3 just 53 days away, boy, I have a lot on my mind and things are starting to get really heating up on this end. And as some of you know, walk 3, I'll be walking 300 miles from the Adirondack Mountains down to New York City, and I'll be doing that with a 3-legged dog.
What?
Doing this. Yes, Grayson, I'm not sure. I didn't know that you knew that yet.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, we've got lots to talk about here in a second, but first let me intro the show. So with that on the horizon, increasingly on the horizon, it's glad to have our guest Ginger this week. We know her very, very well. Even though she doesn't yet know about walk 3, she certainly knows about our first walk from Austin to Boston, where we had Hudson and Murphy walking from Austin to Boston. She provided the awesome footwear. She is the founder and CEO of a great company called Neo-Paws. It's Roanna. She also goes by Ronnie. Ronnie, how are you? Welcome to Fuzzy.
Hello. Welcome. Thank you so much. And so happy to be here with you. This is exciting.
It is exciting. It is exciting for so many reasons. And it's been far too long, Ronnie. I think I've always called you Ro, so I might call you all 3 variations: Ro, Roanna, and Ronnie. That would make sense since I'm tripolar. So what I wanted to start off with the show before we talk about Neo-Paws and the wonderful company you have there, I wanted to talk about the first walk and how sort of we intersected. And while we're talking about walk 1, I wanted to bring up this picture. It's in the archives. It's one of the most famous pictures from our Austin to Boston walk. Let's see if I can do this without shutting down the whole system. Are you guys there? I don't see you.
Yep. I see you.
We're here.
Okay, here is the famous picture of my sweet baby boy, Hudson. So let me set this picture up. This was taken, Ronnie, I'm not sure if you know, have you seen this picture before?
I have, Luke, I have.
Okay, I thought so. It'd been a while. This was taken just south outside of Texarkana.
Beautiful.
So it was in the summertime. So the asphalt in Texas was heating up. I think this was July. I think was when we hit, maybe June was when we hit Texarkana back in 2008. And so by then, Neo-Paws and Ro had provided these wonderful Neo-Paws boots, but they're so aesthetically beautiful too. And so Hudson and Murphy and I were walking. We were south of Texarkana, making our way to Texarkana. And so there was a road construction underway. They were repaving the asphalt on these hot Texas summer roads. And so, Ro, I'm not sure. Have I shared this story with you before?
No, Luke, tell me.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. It's like the funniest story ever. So Hudson and Murphy and I are kind of navigating our way on this 2-lane highway that's undergoing road construction, and half of the road is being repaved. And so one of the road workers that had stopped construction, it was this nice looking a woman, and she saw us as we were sort of walking up to the stopped vehicles. And as soon as she saw Hudson and his Neo-Paws Booties, this is what she said: those are some fine looking shoes. She said that, Ro, I kid you not. And it was the funniest thing. I laughed, I think, for the rest of the day, because it was a really tough, brutal, hot day. And it was the stench and from the repaving. It was brutal, but it just made us laugh. But it speaks to something, I think, I'm going to leave this picture up because I'm trying to tell the story without crying, because I think you do know that I lost Hudson last September, and walk 3 is in his honor. So I'm trying to share this story without getting weepy, all weepy like. But it speaks to something that I think is so important about Neo-Paws in your brand, Ro, is that not only do you have such a wonderful, your flagship product, these beautiful booties, neoprene booties, which we'll discuss here in a moment, but not only are they so wonderful and effective in protecting the pads of my 2 Great Pyrenees, Hudson and Murphy, on walk 1, they're also so beautiful. They're so sequined and
Call them his ruby red slippers.
That's right, Ginger. If you want to weigh in now after I finally got that story out, I think Ginger, you know them as his ruby red slippers, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna take this down now. Bye-bye, Hudson, my sweet baby boy. Boy, I love him so. So that to me speaks to, I think, what is a great thing about Neo-Paws, is that not only do you have such a wonderful product that protected the paws of my 2 Great Pyrenees on walk 1, but they're so beautiful as well. So with that long setup, Ro, tell us about Neo-Paws and what your mission is, and how did you get to be such a wonderful company?
You know, it's funny because I was actually in the restaurant and the hotel business, and I've always wanted to be a veterinarian as well. So one of the options after studying psychology and journalism and all kinds of things, and then I actually ended up graduating from hotel school. I opened a retail store. I had an import-export business throughout Mexico, bringing dishware and designs and beautiful things over to Canada. And then finally, I opened a restaurant, and throughout all of that, there was something that I loved doing, but I was missing one thing, and that was a dog. So of course, in restaurant business, you're not allowed to have animals around, but that never stopped me, because on one of my buying trips from Mexico, because it was part store and part restaurant, and I was still importing, and there in this box was this little white dog looking up at me with a pink heart on his nose and black beady eyes. And I said, "You're coming home with me." So I had finally found him after about 1.5 years of looking for the right dog. So back to Canada we went, and he definitely was a part of my life. I never was without him, really.
What was his name?
His name was Mex, because I got him in Mexico. And yeah, he was a, I thought he was a husky. I didn't even know what he was, because it was a bunch of different puppies in a box. And I said, well, this is interesting. So husky he was for about, a month. And then I realized he was an albino Old English sheepdog. So he had pink around his eyes, and he was mostly white instead of having the black or the gray on him. And then at 6 months, we started rollerblading together. And we came back to the restaurant after an hour jaunt, and his paws were all bloody. And I said, geez. And I was, of course, active and into sports and all that. And I said, why aren't there running shoes for dogs? So that started the mission. And you're right, you mentioned neoprene. That was the first material that I had used. But then I also realized that in the summer, neoprene was too hot to use. So we sectioned off from going from winter shoes to summer shoes. And that was a great thing, because now they became breathable. So that's what you had. You had the summer shoes, and you had the first generation or second generation, which was amazing. You should see what they look like now. I mean, they're
I can't wait. I cannot wait.
Well, I always said that they're like little Nike to the dog world. I mean, that's what we are. We are definitely by far the best shoe on the market. And I can strongly say that. Yeah.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. I missed that from the intro. I'm glad you reinserted that. Is that I love that you call them running shoes. I've been referring to them as booties, but they really aren't just, they're off the shelf booties. You have a unique style, and bad Big Dog for messing that whole thing up. You have running shoes, and you're also known as the Nike Nike of the dog world to the dog world. That is how you're known out of all the
Yeah.
media. You've done a ton of media, obviously, you because you make such
Yeah.
a wonderful product and you give back so much and do so many great things. We'll get to all that. This is your platform. We have plenty of time to talk all about the wonderful things that you do, but you really have created a new product category now and thinking this through, and that is you have the high performance running shoes.
Yeah, so we have two kinds of winter shoes, which are the regular performance and the high performance. And you're right. I mean, I refer to them as shoes, but I suppose when we're talking about the winter shoes, we can call them winter boots because they do go higher up on the leg, right? So they do actually look like boots. Then we have the summer shoes, which also go higher up the leg, but they're made of mesh, which is the breathable. And there's two kinds there. So we have the summer indoor-outdoor summer shoes, and then we have the reinforced energy summer shoes. And these are all phrases that I've coined and patented and trademarked, and and proudly so, because I who designed them and have brought them into fruition, which means that I personally go to China. That's where they're made, overseas, because they have the technology and they also make the materials there. So that's where I started. My goodness, it's now been it's our 30th year anniversary now.
Wow.
This year.
Wow.
So yeah, this is great that we're actually doing this interview on my 30th year. So proudly saying, and it was interesting because at the time, people would laugh at me. Oh, is your dog sick? What's wrong with its paws? And I said, no, it's actually to protect them so that nothing actually bad happens to the paws, when they're being active with their humans. I got a lot of slack. Oh, the dogs don't need shoes. They were born this way. They have pads. And, little by little, it took me a good 10 to 15 years to educate the public. And there was nothing else out there. I mean, there were a couple of competitive brands that were starting up too, but they were nothing like my shoes. And we just kept getting better and better and better. And, I put more attention to detail and perfecting sizes. We have 14 sizes, 4 styles. And then in the process, I realized not only do dogs need them for winter, they need them for summer, and we're also orthopedic. So what do I mean by orthopedic? Orthopedic means that we comfort the dog's walks so that they don't get corns, or if they have corns, that we, appease their pain when they're walking on them. Same as arthritis. I mean, I've seen dogs come in limping, not even putting a leg down, and there they were with the shoes on, running like nothing's, wrong. So that has been, I think, such a gratifying aspect to the company. The fact that I've seen older dogs walk again. And if they can't necessarily walk and they use wheelchairs or whatever have you, it also protects their, their limbs and their paws from the dragging that they do. Right. So that's a huge component.
Absolutely. You always have, you pack a lot and a little punch there. So there's a lot to unpack for us. So let me break it down. It's kind of like, actually, I just spent $1,000 on Grayson, getting him a set of wheels for this 300-mile walk. And it's not something that's necessarily required, but in talking to Eddie's Wheels, who makes the walk, they also have a very similar type of situation where the feedback that they get is, well, why do I need wheels when I have a dog that can walk on 3 legs perfectly fine, which 3-legged dogs typically can? Well, that's true of very short distances on probably even terrain, and in some cases uneven terrain. Mm-hmm. But typically now we live in sort of an environment where we continue to enrich our companion animals' lives by pushing them further, spending more time with them on the road, exercising with them for greater distances. And so yet what Eddie's Wheels and what they've learned is, well, maybe if you're walking your dog 1 mile, you don't need a set of wheels, or you don't need that additional assistance or support. But if you're going to be doing 5 miles a day, well, that certainly changes it, because if you don't, then downstream in 3 or 4 years, you're going to have a dog that has some serious arthritis. So what I love about what you've learned and what the wave or trend that you're on right now is you've been in the business so long enough to understand that you see that high performance, the more high performance that we have with our companion animals, the more that we have to take care of them so that they live longer, because they're going to have the additional wear and tear, right?
100%. I mean, and this is what people fail to understand. And I think part of it comes from the laziness too. I'm not going to, not to be rude to anybody, but there is a certain amount of effort that's required to use products on your dogs. You know, it's like saying, oh, well, my dog swims fine and he's a Labrador. Okay, that's great. But you know what? Maybe something happens when your Labrador is out there swimming or kayaking or boating with you. And maybe you need that protection, or maybe he just likes to float and it actually will help him, you know, get through to the docks faster or go out further and come back faster, or, you know, so, and I'm using that as one of the products because there's always a bit of feedback when you're, you know, using these products on these animals. So I think, and that's why we say it's like our products are for the discerning dog and, you know, dog owners, because they understand the need for these products. And this is where it's at. It's like, if you want to live a healthier, longer life, what do? Well, maybe you don't smoke so much, maybe you don't drink too much alcohol, and maybe you eat better, and maybe you take vitamins. I mean, this is all part of, you know, our existence. So people have to, you know, I always say healthy you, healthy pet. Right? So if you're not starting with yourself, it's the same as relationships. If you're not loving yourself, you can't love someone else. Well, it's the same kind of a thing, right? So whatever habit that the owner has, the dog adopts, because that's just the way it is, right? So
right.
Yeah.
I'm shaking my head in agreement. However, I have to preface this, or I have to have certainly the honest talk with my audience, or else I'm going to get called out on it. I can be a bad parent because I'm of the cerebral type, and I'm actually kind of an introvert because I'm a creative guy. And so I can be a bad parent. It's not always my nature, my second nature, to get out and be active with my boys, both Grayson, my newest addition to the Fuzzybutt family, and Indiana, who just turned 11. And so I'm active with Indiana, or I try to be every day, but he doesn't get around so much. But one of the things that I've learned, Ro, over my travels, I guess now over the past almost 14 years, since I left Austin back in 2008, it has been 14 years, is that we now understand the very powerful concept of epigenetics. And that is, your environment makes you, it makes the dog, it makes the person. And that is that your environment, the more you enrich your environment, of course, the more you're changing your fundamental genetics, the more you're going to have a less risk for cancer and so on and so forth. So the concept of epigenetics really is, epigenetics and enrichment is something that I talk more and more about here on Fuzzybutts and Friends for Pet Parents, because it doesn't always mean that you have to get out and be active or exercise with your dog. Just somehow, in some way, that you have an enriched companionship, because you can, because we live in the time where you have to have that type of relationship. Before we move on, and we also know all the downstream health problems, which you touched on as well. We know that sedentary existence for our companion animals causes obesity, and we know that's one of the biggest comorbidities of cancer. Cancer now, we're seeing 6 million new cases of cancer in dogs, and obesity and inactivity and sedentary existence has got to be at least one of the big risk factors, I would imagine, if you'd say, right?
Yeah, well, that's one of the factors. Do you want to talk about this?
Oh, please go. Yes, sure. Talk about whatever.
I mean, I think it's pretty basic. I mean, it goes back to not only it's the amount of vaccinations and drugs that are given to the dogs. It's the amount of liver infections and diseases, in the sense of not knowing and not cleansing. Because even when puppies are born and they've gotten all these, you know, toxins from the vaccinations that the mothers had and that passed throughout, you know, and whatever genetically as well. I mean, sometimes we're prone genetically to having a certain disease, but because of our environment or our choices, we can actually counteract that, right? So, but it's always starting with liver cleanses. That's really important. Then a kidney cleanse, and then a lung cleanse. So the more you cleanse your organs and keep them healthy, then of course, you know, that's going to keep the body healthy and then living longer. Also, with respect to the water that we drink, I used to sell water. I drink reverse osmosis. That's because it's the purest, cleanest water there is. And then it goes through certain stages of filtration and oxygenation and killing bacteria in it. Our water is coming out of our taps, I mean, are 50,000 chemicals. This is what people are cooking, eating, and drinking every day. What's going to happen with all those chemicals in your body? Okay, so that's
absolutely. Let's take these one by one. Let's line on these, or else your big dog here is going to get very confused, and I'll wander off into the bushes. So vaccinations. Let's talk about that. You know, you're speaking to a person here, myself and Ginger, by way of the Puppy Up Foundation. I've spoken to the smartest of the smartest, what I like to think is probably the best and brightest of the bunch in the veterinary oncology world. And I've had these conversations ad infinitum, ad nauseum. This is something I'm always, every time I'm out talking to a veterinary oncologist, I'm always asking them, what are the risk factors you're seeing? What are you seeing out there at your practice, wherever your practice is located? And I also talk to pet parents, because that's probably the bigger thing. I've talked to thousands of pet parents who have had companion animals with cancer of some ilk, of some type. And in asking pet parents, what do you think is causing cancer? What do you think the risk factors are? Vaccinations, it goes without a doubt. Vaccinations are in the top 3. Multiple vaccinations are in the top 3, top 5 somewhere. Diet, nutrition, some of the comorbidities such as obesity. We know, of course, we know actually right now as a foundation, and I think you know this because you're so well educated about companion animal issues, is that we now no longer talk about cancer in dogs and cancer in people. We talk about one cancer, right? Because we're both species. We're very similar species. If you look at our DNA, we're comparable. That's why it's comparative oncology. We have comparable DNA. We're comparable in so many different other areas. And so we think of one cancer in a shared ecosystem. So what you're talking about next is water. And that's the next big thing. I just posted on my Facebook feed a link to an article about they tested the urine samples in something like almost 2,000 people. 80% of them tested very high for Roundup, whatever the toxins and poisons that are in a Roundup. And as we know, Roundup is a carcinogen. So you think 80% of people are being tested. How did you not look at my Facebook feed and not see that article and then share it on there? You're the executive director of the Foundation for which
I did not see that.
Don't get me on that rant.
I see all Grayson videos.
That's true. You just see the puppy dog videos. I have to deal with the cancer part of it. Anyway, but if you think 80% of people, man, oh man, what are we talking about with puppy dogs? Because they are more on our lawn and more active on our lawn than I would say the vast majority of people. So let's just say 100%. So whatever that chemical is in Roundup, and I do plead a degree of ignorance with actually knowing the carcinogens, the chemical names of the carcinogens, but I know that there has been a pathway to proving there is a causality, a link between that chemical agent and Roundup and cancer. So I say this a lot on Fuzzybutts and Friends. Every pet parent that is a responsible pet parent should be sounding the alarms. Guys, we've done something horribly wrong. 6 million new cases of cancer and dogs alone is a big number. So now let's just start on that. So the value proposition for Booties or for running shoes becomes different. It's not just about, hey, let's protect the pads from extensive use. It's now there's chemicals and toxins out there in the environment that we can't get rid of them. We can't depend on the damn government to get rid of them and enforce whatever laws are on the books. So it's up to the pet parents to protect our kids. Back to you. What are your thoughts?
Well, you know what? Absolutely 100%. And that's a really, really great point. Where, that just tags on to, when the pavement's too hot, you use the shoes when the chemicals are out, and we know all the chemtrails. I mean, like even in Toronto, Canada, where I live here now, part-time, they were spraying for the moths, right? They're killing these moths. Everyone's like, great. So stay in your house kind of a thing, right? They say that it's not toxic. Of course it's toxic. The government will tell you anything just to keep moving along. So you're right. And unfortunately, we're all being attacked by the same things, whether it's our animals, our pets, whether it's, our livestock, whether it's us. And here's the thing. So how do we take away the problem. Sometimes it's impossible because we live urban lives. You know, in the country, there may be other issues. You're right about the Roundup. You're right about all of the chemicals in the grass. Everybody, whether it's Roundup or any chemical, the dogs are definitely on the grass peeing and pooing, and they're and then in the winter when they come back and their paws are all like messed up from, if you're not wearing shoes, from the salt, and the dog's licking its paws, right? I mean, we've all seen our dogs do that. And so that's another issue. Well, guess where all the chemical from the salt is going? In their digestive tract, right? So here's another thing. And then, you know, we have allergies. So let's talk about the allergies. Allergies to grass, allergies to the environment, allergies to the chemicals. So, I mean, I remember, this is going back 10 years now, at least, and there was a woman in the UK, and she had spent, check this out, 10,000 pounds on trying to figure out why her dog's paws would be inflamed all the time and what was going on, right? So this was probably 15 years ago. So this was before things were really known and put together, right? The pieces of the puzzle were still all kind of flowing around. So she contacted us because I guess her dog's paws are very sensitive. And literally within 2 weeks, all of the issues went away after using the shoes. So then we started realizing, wow, so these are like a total barrier between, you know, the dog's paws and the allergens. So that was another huge reason why dogs needed to use the shoes. And then further, just to add it to that too, I mean, whether they're getting cut up on stuff, whether it's glass or burning cigarettes or nails or things, debris that are in the grass hiding, or whatever, broken beer bottles. I mean, that's another huge risk factor that you're exposing your dogs to. I mean, I've seen people hiking for hours, biking in the dog. And I've seen people at trade shows and they've shown me the bottom. I've actually looked at the bottom of their pads and their blister is the size of a quarter. And they're like, oh, and I'm like, yeah, guess what? So not to blame anyone, but we have to be aware. If, you know, everyone's getting these dogs and these pets, but we need to, I mean, this is where I feel I lack. And this is why platforms such as yours are so great as well, because we need to be talking about these things. We need to be putting these things forefront. The perils, it's great to talk about and show pictures of your cute little dog in any outfit, but we're talking about why do dogs really need to be protected. And that was the essence of the company idea when I first started, which was the leader in beautiful safety pet apparel, which is, yeah, let's protect our pets and let's live longer lives, period. And that, going back to the initial convo, is also about the third, which is the food. Okay, because when you're giving dogs, you know, dry food for the rest of their lives, and whatever have you, there are chemicals in those foods. When they cook those foods, there are no vitamins that live on any of the foods. Okay, so just FYI, like, don't kid yourself. Another, you know, so there is, and then when you're giving dry food, where's the moisture? In the tap water that you're giving them? Is this what your dogs are drinking? So they're getting tap water full of chemicals, a dry food, even the best of the dry foods. Okay, they're good, they're nice. Your dog needs to be eating meat. It needs to be eating meat. I mean, I have a lot of customers, when I had my stores, they were vegetarians. They didn't want to touch meat. So the dog became a vegetarian. Okay, that was a new thing. Okay, so that was right. I mean, you know, the dogs are vegan. I'm like, wow, a vegan dog. Okay, so their carnivore selves, I guess we're mutating that as well. Again, what do you say? Well, okay, if you need to do that, then great. Okay, we're vegan too, but we are herbivore, we're carnivore, and, you know, there are animals that are just carnivores. So, you know, there are a lot of things on the table that we really need to be looking at and getting real with. And you know, but then again, just saying that there have been dogs on dry food for years, 14 years, and people say, oh, my dog lived 14 years and it was on the same brand of dry dog food, so it seemed to be okay. Okay, maybe for that dog it was, or maybe your dog could have lived till he was 20. Go figure, if he had a little bit more, you know, meat or fresher food in his diet. So who's to say?
No, these are all great issues. They're all very important topics. And Ginger's shaking her head because I think she realized bit off more than I could chew by giving an open platform just to talk about all the things that you think are causing cancer. So Ginger's enjoying the show because I
am enjoying the show.
She's enjoying the show because I get what I deserve. I get what I ask for in this. But you're always this is what I always respect and like about you, Ronnie, is that you're just a wellspring of information and knowledge because you're so passionate. You spend so much time thinking about this and researching it and trying to understand. But what you're speaking to, I like so much, you're speaking to a much bigger issue, is that we don't really have institutional trust in our big pet brand companies and also in our institutions like governments, because it's okay if we decide as a society that we have to, down here in way south of Canada, which is Memphis, we spray, but we don't spray for moss. We spray for something else, which is mosquitoes, because they all cause a whole host of different potentially fatal diseases, such as heartworms, which Grayson is currently suffering from heartworms. We just went through that. So, well, thankfully, I think we're through the worst of it. And but I don't think that any of the institutions that also includes the bigger pet food companies are having an honest conversation with pet parents about what the risk factors are, and more importantly, what we need to do to protect our pets. Because why shouldn't the city of Memphis or the city of West Memphis in Arkansas or whatever say, look, we're spraying, you should really protect the feet of your kids on these certain, of your companion animals that go outdoors on these certain days. There's not that level of transparency or communication. And so as a result, for whatever reason that they don't have that honest, transparent conversation with pet parents, there's no institutional trust. So we are experiencing, you guys I know are experiencing in Canada, but we're certainly experiencing here in America, is a complete failure of institutional trust across the boards. And that also means corporate America, because I believe in a lot of big corporations, a lot of big corporate pet brands, I don't trust the product that they're putting out or the quality control that they're making sure that what they're doing once they can continue to do over and over again. So and that affects us in the puppy up world, because all of those things can cause cancer, right? And so it's a big topic, and it's a big concern. So, but all these things considered, let's go back down from the macro down back to the micro and talk about what we can affect, because we can't control all those external circumstances, or we can to a certain extent, but we can control whether our kids wear booties, boots, or running shoes or summer shoes. And that's what I want to talk about next, the distinction. But before I talk about the distinction between the summer and the winter, because that's very important, because it affects the product choice that we're going to have to make for Grayson. But before I want to get into that, is we talked about the value proposition and all the risk factors that pet parents need to protect their companion animals from when they take them out to exercise, which they need to do on a daily basis. But what we didn't talk is the other ugly side of the downside to boots and shoes, and that is they're an absolute pain in the fuzzy butt to put on and to keep on. So let's talk about that, because it's fun and fuzzy, and we're about to shoot a video with Grayson trying on the Neo-Paws for the first time. But let's talk about that, because it's always a ton of fun to talk. But we know we need to protect, and it's going to be a problem for me because I know all the risk factors. I'm an educated guy. We just went over this. And if something bad happens to Grayson on the road on walk 3 when he's not wearing the booties, people are going to point to this podcast. Well, Ro told you specifically, she said, you're going to have that. You're going to have class, and it's going to, so I'm probably going to get it. But the reality is, Ro, and this is the conversation, all kidding aside, I want to have with you, is that on walk 1, we didn't really have the booties on walk 2, because the West Coast, we were right on the coastline, and it was 70 degrees pretty much the entire way on that side. So we didn't use them as much. But on walk 1, I use them a lot more frequently, because we are exposed to a lot more different conditions. So putting on booties on a dog, as we all know, is like an Olympic feat. Or it's like some sort of logistical nightmare with a kid, right? You're putting on one boot, you get it on, then you're trying to put the second boot on. And as you're doing that, the mouth is pulling the lace of the first one off. You get the first one off. I'm in a tent. It's, 20 degrees outside. We got to get X number of miles in before sunset. And, I'm having this nightmare of a problem trying to get the boots on. So how do you, so let's talk about that. be kind of funny, but it is a real problem. And I know that's the kickback and the negative feedback that you get from pet parents. So let's talk about that. Go ahead.
There has to be a training process that goes on there.
Yeah. First of all, how do you make it less painful? That's question number one.
All right. So listen, I've been putting shoes on. I still run my company in my retail stores, and I've probably put, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of shoes on dogs over the past 30 years. And I know that it's doable and it's really not that difficult. So first of all, we make videos which teach you how to put the shoes on. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now, it's taken me probably 20 years to figure out how to measure the dog's paws online perfectly well, so that people don't have the issue of getting the wrong size, whether it be too small or too large. If they're too large, they will definitely fall off, of course, because there's nothing holding the extra space. And you know, as far as when people come to Neo-Paws.com and order from us, I also take a lot of pride in, we literally probably call 99.9% of our customers just to ascertain the size. Because first of all, we don't like having people spend tons of money on shipping, getting stuff back and forth. It wastes money it wastes your time, it wastes your money, and nobody's happy in the process. So then they're even cursing them even more by the time they get them, and then they have to try them on. So there, you know, it's funny because I don't get any returns because of quality. I get returns because they tell me the dog doesn't like them. And really what they're saying is, I don't know how to put these damn things on, I'm returning them, right? This is too much hassle for us. And that happens once in a while. But I've seen a woman in a fur coat at 65 in her high heels go down on her little dog that's like 15 pounds and put those shoes on like she's a rock star. And so I know that it's possible, because when there's a will, there's a way. So we have to first take into consideration how important is it to put the shoes on, which we've already identified as it is important in most cases of activity and exercise. Now, I know you also mentioned something about not putting them on because it wasn't hot, but also, Luke, it also has to do with the wear and tear, because when people wear the shoes, even though we are like, you know, rubber soles, like running shoe rubber soles, you will see like our little treads, like our diamond treads on the winter high performance, and they're wearing down. Now, my friends, if the rubber is wearing down, then what's happening to the pads in the skin that are not reproducing themselves? So this is what's happening. So over, you know, and then so when people are, let's say, exercising in the summer, and then if they live in a winter state as well, then all the cracks that are happening in the blistering in the summer, now they're walking on the salt in the winter and the cold. And that's going to promote A, infection, B, chemical burns, and C, arthritis. So
I almost said that with an asterisk because I've backpacked 4,000
I knew you were going to get into trouble. I
always get myself into trouble. I always, whenever I talk, I always get myself.
Opened your mouth, and I knew you were in trouble.
Because I backpacked. I know, but because I backpacked 4,000 miles, I am somewhat of an expert, as best of an expert with dogs, and I can talk about it at the expert level, probably with less than 1% of the population. So I should always put that asterisk and say, but yes, you have that. And for when you're doing those many miles on a daily basis, you're going to have that wear and tear. So everything I say, take with the fact that it's much more complicated, and it's all situational. You have to adapt to the environment that you're in. And don't you think that's the first most important thing, is know what environment you're in, and what environment that you're in, and know when's the right time to have footwear to protect the pet.
That's the thing, Luke, right? And our company motto is, because I know exactly where you're coming from, and I too would love to, if I'm, when I had the bigger dogs like Mex and Buster, and we would rollerblade together, as I mentioned, or run or hike or bike. I mean, I put them in shoes because they're big dogs and they're flying through everything, right? So my little dogs, it's a little bit different, unless it's winter and really cold. Okay, maybe we don't go for the 30-mile hike. We're going for a little jaunt around the block. Not so bad. Okay, fine, no problem. You don't necessarily need footwear all the time unless it's scorching hot outside, okay? So on the pavement. But the thing is that it's all about an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And this is what your motto is too, because as you're out there, like you said, I can't afford an issue with my dog's pads because then we're immobilized for 3 weeks until they get better, or I'm vet wrapping them up, you know? So first of all, some veterinarians and a lot of veterinarians are now really referring to the use of shoes. A lot of them don't want to because they like, for example, when your dog gets a cut and they put that IV bag around and the bandaging, and then you have to come back once a week or every 2 days to change it. Why? Why are they not just promoting a really good dog shoe? Why? Because it makes them money. So you have to, you know, so again, we're going back to, you have to kind of just, you know, go through the weeds and really think about what's important for you and what's your purpose and what is it that you want for your dog. So yes, it's a pain to put them on sometimes, but once you get it, it's like clockwork. And I noticed the picture of Hudson, and there are certain things that our customers, even though I offer the videos and photos of how they're supposed to look, people may not get them exactly the way that they should be. Now, I know though, that if it's the right size and you put them on like we recommend, and you do the layering system and you know, you got it here and you strap below this and you do that, they're not going to get off. They're not going to come off unless there's some excruciating circumstance of, you know, you step on your dog's paws or it steps on it and it might, you know, move it a little bit. But typically what I've seen with athletic dogs is that they stay in place at all times, especially if they're just walking.
And that's what I was going to get to next. Once we establish that they're necessary, and the vast majority of cases, you need to have them on for preventative reasons. And then once we address the fact that pet parents can get them on with relative ease, and that you do have a video on your website that will help them, because goodness gracious, I can assure you that I need help with that. In fact, Ginger, I'm sure, is already thinking in the head that we're going to shoot a video specifically on how I boot Grayson up, and we'll share that video via our YouTube channel with you, and then you can critique it and make sure I know what the heck I'm doing, and if I'm not, which I'm sure I'm not doing it 100% correctly, you know, whatever tips you have. We want this to be a learning experience, so we're going to be filming me putting the Booties on Gray, the running shoes, the boots on Grayson. And then so we'll share best practices, whatever we can do to make it easier for pet parents, because I want it to be easier for pet parents. I want them to slip them on, bada bing, bada boom, we're done. Let's get on the road. Let's get our walk in, because it is important for the average pet parent, because we know the average pet parent typically has maybe some kids, has a busy life. And so every second in their busy life counts. And so whatever we can do to make it as easy as possible, as painless as possible, the better, because you get a much higher adoption rate. And we're going to get there too. Like you said, more and more people are actually out there putting footwear on their companion animals. So now that we know that there's a video that can help them put them on properly, what I love, Ronnie, what sold me on Neo-Paws the most, having used other products, which I'll get to that maybe a little bit here in a bit, is the fact that you have that double lace mechanism. And for that, once we establish they're relatively easy, or can be easy to get on, what I can personally attest to is that they do stay on, because I would have them on my kids on walk one for hours and hours, because the nightmare scenario that only fortunately happened once to us on walk one is you lose a boot and you're not paying attention and you're walking on the road. Now you're miles down the road and you realize, oh my God, we're missing a boot, and you need that. And so that happened in Kentucky that happened with Hudson. God bless him in Kentucky. God bless Kentucky. And so it was the wintertime in Kentucky on Route or Highway 31W, and it's a 4-lane, very busy highway. And sure enough, now I was always checking. That's one thing. You're always checking every few minutes just to be sure, because once it does happen, you don't want to be too far. Well, it did happen. So I had to lash Hudson and Murphy to a tree in the wintertime, very cold, and hike all the way back to find the booty that had fallen off.
Ruby red slipper.
So
there's a red one. Thank God they were red. Yeah,
exactly.
They did stick out in the white snow, sure, the driven snow for sure. But so I can attest to that I love that, and I can attest to the quality control. It has that double strapping system that once you get it on, it stays on, and even in very, very tough conditions. So I love that. And talk about that and the genius behind the double strapping system.
So
Lacey.
the very, I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to actually mention that, which is something uber important with dog shoes. If you're looking for dog shoes, whether it's mine or any others, you know, okay, I'm going to say this. First of all, the extra long strap, it's funny because a lot of customers, like, they come in, they're like, oh my God, it's like 50 inches long. Am I supposed to like keep this? And I'm like, do not cut it. Unless there's 1 inch at the end that does not connect, you do not want to cut that down. So yeah, it does take a little extra time to wrap it. But the beautiful part of why we made it that way, other than the fact that, so it is a double Velcro system. So you've got the inside Velcro, you've got but the beauty of the strapping is that it doesn't necessarily have to go above your dog's dew claw. So this is the most important thing, because there are so many times that I get calls saying, oh my God, we've been using XYZ shoes and the dogs do claw the fifth nail right here, right? And then it's only one strap and it goes right above it. And like, is anyone caring? Like, who's making these shoes? Like, I really want to know, why are we making dog shoes if they're not for the dogs? Like, I don't get it. And that's what upsets me. It upsets me that there isn't enough caring. There are other shoes, which I won't mention. They had 1/4 inch seams inside the shoe, rubbing up against the dog's nails and skin. Where does that become okay? And why are the retailers carrying those shoes? Because they're popular? Because the other people are carrying them? Why? Why isn't, you have to do your research. This is what the most important thing is. This is not a product that, oh, look, it's $17. And like, for example, we used to sell on Amazon. Yeah, great platform, of course. Yeah, everyone goes there to buy everything. Sure, no problem. But then what happens? You know, we could not put our videos up, how to put the shoes on. We could not put our paw size charts up, how to measure for the paws, because we have those as well now. So I didn't have the ability to share that with people, which meant that they were ordering whatever size that they thought that they, you know, needed. And now going back to what I was saying, that took me 20 years to figure out exactly how to measure the dog's paws. We now found, you know, the exact way of offering our sizing chart for the 14 sizes that we offer, where people, if they read the instructions, because most people don't, hence why I'm calling everybody and saying, hey, did the nails go outside the front line? You know, and they're like, oh no, but okay, I'll do it again. So this is of the utmost important, that the tools are already there. You want to make people's lives, as a retailer and an online retailer, you want to make it simple enough for them to be able to feel good about the product that they're buying. Right. So these are the most important things. How comfortable are, like, we have a 4mm gel insole inside our shoes. You know, there's a foam that's built in. And then if dogs have any other issues, or if we want to take up some space, because sometimes maybe in those 14 sizes, a dog is in between 2 of those sizes, they can put an extra gel insole that we sell, you know, that are literally gel insoles to take up some more room. Right. So, which is great. So these are the things. It starts with us to be able to offer a very confident product that's going to take care and keep your dog safe and not injure them further to what you're trying to protect them from. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is.
Oh, by the way, I love that chart. I printed it out. I put Grayson's paw on it. Then we took him for his sort of rehab training with the vet, and I had her measure as well. So we're good.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Ginger. I was going to confirm with you, just to be sure that they have 14 sizes. Are we certainly you sized it correctly? Do we need to bring that out and get that verified while we have?
Oh, Ginger, you're getting double. You're getting questioned here. Yeah.
Oh no, we've got it. We've got it.
Well, if you don't worry. I got it for you. I'll definitely be there to make sure that you're getting the right thing.
We will talk offline and make sure, because we have to order, we have to get them soon, because the walk starts, as I said, in 53 days. But we want to go ahead and get them broken in and trained with them. And we do have a size that we think works that for now, but we want to get him fitted with the 3 boots, the 3 shoes. Yes, go ahead. Sure.
Sorry, no, I didn't mean to cut you off in whatsoever, but so they come in pairs, okay, because the back
Right.
paws and front paws are usually different from each other. And you're going to have an extra boot that you can use, because even though that they're rights and lefts, it's just the way that they do up, and not necessarily, it's definitely not the way that they're shaped, because the shape is the same. It's just the way that they get done up. So, and I wanted to mention, this is why I put my finger up, about tripods, which a lot of people, again, they're not aware of that. So imagine, so whether the tripod is at the front, like the missing leg is at the front or the back, you've got the left or the right leg now, and the paws giving all the support, right? And all the bounce for the other side.
Yes.
Sure, if it's a light dog, then great, not so bad. But what happens if it's a little heavier, or for whatever dog? You have to, it's really important, if the dog can get used to wearing a shoe on its good paw, well, the leg that's left, I shouldn't say good or bad, because it shouldn't, qualify it that way. But yeah, whatever paws are left, to give it the support. Otherwise, it's getting too much activity on the other three. So chiropractically, they're out. And just so that, for all the viewers who are, maybe about to use shoes, just know that there's always a little learning curve, not only for you, but also for the dog to get used to it. But you'll see that once the dog is all discombobulated, and we've got, how many videos has everyone seen with it? I mean, I've seen boxers do handstands, Chihuahuas do handstands, like all their legs go back and they're like, what is going on? But fear not, because as soon as they get out there and they start walking, it just becomes a great experience.
Yeah, yes, and we're going to shoot those funny videos, because that makes it also adorable. But trying to understand, because you remove the sensation from the paw to the surface, and that's what they're trying to understand, that sensation, and they can learn it, they will. But one question, Ro, that I did have for you before we move on is the dew claw. Well, I was cursed or blessed, depending on which side of the fence that you live on, with Great Pyrenees. And one thing that we know, which is a breed standard about Great Pyrenees, is that they have not one dew claw, as they have two on their hind legs. Exactly. Yep, they got 6 toes. They're, what does that make them? 22-toed. 22-toed canines. And so what I found is that that's a problem with Booties, is that extra dew claw, because it's a split toe. Most Booties, they don't account for that additional split toe, and it causes, because sometimes it compresses those 2 toes together, it can cause ulceration, it can cause all types of soring and stuff. So in your experience, in your 20 years that you've been dealing with this, how do you help out with the double dew claw issue? Because I talked to Pyrenees people before walk 1, when I had no idea what the heck I was doing, and their solution was, well, just amputate it. I'm thinking, that's not really a solution that I really want to entertain, because nature says they should have it, and I don't really want to disagree with nature, because I typically lose that argument. So how do you, in your experience, how do people with double dew claw dogs, how do they deal with it?
Well, I mean, whether the dew claws are at the back or the front, it's still the same concept of wrapping the shoes, because you're wrapping the straps below or above the dew claw, so you can completely miss it. But the other nice thing about our shoes is that you can actually cut a hole, whether it's in the neoprene or the summer or the mesh. You can literally just cut a hole and have the dew claw. You can give it a bit of space for the dew claw if it's compressing. But typically, where on the back paws, where the dew claws sit on the Great Pyrenees, it's a little higher up, so then you will have no problems. Sometimes in the front, the dew claws on some of the dogs, they're very low, right? So, and we're asking you to wrap around the ankle, right? Very, very low. So that's when you can go a little lighter. And I always tell people, when you're dealing with dew claws, and if it's an issue, because some dogs have very sensitive skin and others don't, right? So, but if they do, then you put what they call mole skin. So there's a product that's sold at the pharmacy, and it's basically an adhesive, but it's rubbery material that, like a Band-Aid, even though they have fur and the Band-Aid's not going to stick, but you can still place that pad, right? The Band-Aid pad, the protection pad, between the dew claw and the skin of the dog. So if you need to wear shoes, and your dog has those dew claws, that is the solution. Number 1, our wrapping system. Number 2, if it's really in the way and you really need to, get those shoes because the dog's running miles and miles and really fast, then you can get that padding in between the dew claw and the dog's skin.
I don't anticipate it being as much of a problem in walkthrough because the reality is we're only doing 5 miles a day, and it's going to be it's just much more certain terrain, and the 5 miles, and he'll have his wheelchair. We'll have wheels for some of that, so he'll have some of the pressure and the wear and tear taken off of his hind limbs. So I don't anticipate that. But you talked earlier about not discussing competition. But one of the things but I found that after sampling and actually trying, let's just use rough wear an example. We started walk one with rough wear, the lower cut boot, and I found that Neo-Paws, even though I'm not 100% certain now that I laced them to protect their double dew claws. So we're definitely going to have to go over that. So whatever you can help train me, teach me, that can improve the success rate. But I know that the lower cut boots seem to have the greater wear and tear on dew claws and just as a whole. So in my world, the only option is the higher cut boot. But one more thing about rough wear, and the only reason why I mention them is I'm not even going to consider them, because I'm not sure if I told you, is they were a total jerk to me on walk one, because the dog that is their logo, I think his name was Oscar, they lost to cancer, and I bought a couple of backpacks and a couple of things and asked them to donate something, and they refused, and then tweeted later on, and the guy was a jerk, and then they never apologized. So I'll never buy rough wear, and I had to get them in because I told them that it was such a negative experience that I'm gonna keep talking about it, because you need to be, because I was a paid customer and they were totally a jerk, and they lost a dog to cancer. So I have a thing about that. But aside from all that, it's just they still have only the lower cut boot, because I did look at their product catalog, because I am a responsible pet parent. I do want the best product, but I feel like with double dew clawed dogs, I think, Ginger, is that still true that Pyrenees are the only, or Roe, is Pyrenees pretty much the only double?
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much.
So if you do have a Pyrenees, in my world, the lower cut boots are not even an option. So go with the higher cut boots. So in that vein, what I want to get to next is what is the right option, boot option or shoe option for us, Rose. So you mentioned you have a summer and a winter. The boot versus more of, I guess, the running shoe. So we're walking in September up in the mountains and then making a way down through the Hudson Valley down to New York City through the fall. So it's going to be relatively cool, but we do want the higher cut boot. So we might have some warm days. So given all of those variables in that equation, do you feel like the winter bootie or boot is still the product or the boot of choice for us?
No, not necessarily. And here's the thing, because the summer shoes can be worn in the summer and also in the winter. But the winter shoes can be worn in the winter and definitely not in the summer, because they're not
He
breathable.
wouldn't be able to train with them now.
Right. So
it's
it's
100
best
degrees
since you're not, if you mentioned fall, you didn't say winter. So I'm gonna say the summer shoe is the best shoe for you this time around as well. And that again is just because even if you come into snow, now where would you, like, for example, there are dogs that have a lot of fur. So customers will call me and say, hey, listen, we need it for the winter, but we're also going to use them in the summer. Do I have to buy 2 different sets of shoes? No, you don't. You can definitely just use, if your dog it already has its fur protection, right? So, or the hair, then it's no problem. You can just use summer shoes all year round. But if your dog is a boxer or, a whippet or a greyhound or anything that doesn't have fur, maybe they get cooler. So you want to give them the neoprene because it's insulating. See what I mean? But as far as the soles and everything else, Luke, it's summer is where I'm going to go for you.
And one quick question, just since you mentioned the soles, do you feel like that a 10-week walk we won't have issues with wear and tear on the soles? Yeah, I felt like
the only wear and tear that I really, really find that we sell shoe goo for, right? So we sell shoe goo with the shoes because the dogs are dragging. And if it's not a steel toe boot, any rubber is going to wear out. So the goo, like, it's funny because I could sell way more shoes if I didn't sell the goo. But again, we care about our customers. We want them to have, we don't want them to have their piggy banks broken because they have to put shoes on their dogs, right? So we charge the minimal that we can you know, and we really haven't moved our prices in 30 years. I mean, it's been like very, very small increments. So they're definitely affordable for the quality that they're getting. I mean, think about it. People are buying a set of shoes for what, between $28 and $40 for a pair of shoes that they're using on their dogs that are dragging. And, you know, that's like nothing. I mean, you know, I've even braces. Like people don't even use braces when they come to Neo-Paws because of the higher top. We're supportive. So, you know, the braces are very uncomfortable for the dogs. Lots of straps, like it's like, you know, hard. But when the shoe, it's like a sprained, like a ligament, right? You're spraining your leg, you wear a tensor bandage. That's kind of what we are. We're like a tensor bandage effect for support.
Well, you sold me. That's for sure. So we're going to go with the summer, and so let's make sure after this program here that we go through what needs to make sure we got the sizing right. Let's get them ordered, because I want to make sure that we get, because we're also doing a documentary out of this well, and we're shooting as much video as we can, and I want to make sure we get this the trying them on, making sure that that everything is correct. Because we have little margin of error once we're on the road. We have to be out there logging the miles, and like we talked about, we never know what we're up against. But that is your flagship product, and how we intersected the fact that you've got the best product out there and still do, because I did check it out. I did look, because it's been a few years. And since I've been out there searching for shoes and protective footwear for puppy dogs, and you still have the best product, but that's not the only product. You guys have expanded in the many years since we've last talked. So please talk about your ever expanding product line with Neo-Paws. It's exciting.
Yeah, it is. It's exciting. It really is. I mean, over the years, you know, I keep adding products. In the initial stages, because we became a safety pet apparel company, I definitely added the life jackets, the seat belts, you know, that we have all the coats, the neoprene jackets. I like neoprene. Neoprene is a very flexible material that's very insulating, whether it's cooling or warming. It does both, which is super. And also we've got the fleece suits, we've got the all body. So we've been making those for a long time, over 20 years, where it's like the whole leg, and then we Velcro on the top because it makes it a lot easier to put them on the dogs. So every product that we have, they're very defined by ease of use. You know, we always try to make things as easy as possible to put on, put off, and also to be able to keep on. For example, like the seat belt, it doesn't only, it also triples up as, for smaller dogs, a flotation aid, because it's made with a foam inside the chest. It's got a cross your heart system. So, you know, these ones, be careful too when you're buying seat belts. Never buy a one strap that goes down the chest, because, you know, when your dog goes flying, the chest is going to crack open. So you have to think about, these are other things, like why make a seat belt with one strap down, you know, your ribs, which obviously have, you know, the separation. So that also, you can use it as a harness. So you're putting it on once a day, and you're using it all day long for many reasons, which is great. So yeah, we have the easy up harnesses for the back end. People always ask me if I sell wheelchairs. I don't, because that was another, that's a big thing to chew off. You know, you really have to make sure that, you know, it's very attentive to detail. I love Eddie's Wheels. We promote each other all the time. It's a great company. They sell tons of wheelchairs. They know what they're doing. So, you know, you leave things to the experts. It's like, over the years, you know, I watched people who started off making bowls. Now they're making dog shoes. And I'm like, dudes, what do you know about dog shoes? You're making bowls. That's where you're, you know, and that also, it's kind of like, and I see the shoes on dogs, because they, you know, they sell them in pet stores or whatever. And I see how non-supportive they are, or how they're like flipping, flopping, or they're flying off. I'm like, okay, great. You get what you pay for, and you have to go to the professionals. If you want a body shop to fix your car, you're going to go to the best painter possible. You can't, and sometimes jacks of all trades, you know, you have to see what they do best. And you start with their flagship products, and then you see how they've created the rest of them. So as much as products are available on the market, and you know, because you're going to ask, like, so what about now with the supply chain, and what about, you know, with all the competitive, like, I saw my business, we finally, after about 15 years, became super popular, because people were waking up to the idea that they needed to protect their animals. Right now, it's gotten to the point where it's like, okay, now we have evidence that this is, you know, we need this stuff. Okay, great. So that was awesome. But then, you know, China took over. All of a sudden, all my product ideas that I was making there, you know, and just showing at the trade shows now became everybody's products. And thank God nobody created things that were exactly like mine, because our products are patented, but still they were close enough to create enough competition for me. So that is always an issue, you know, because now the people who are making dog bowls are now they're just basically buying dog shoes from the Chinese or from wherever they're getting them from, and they're basically private labeling, right?
Yeah.
So that's another thing.
And fortunately, that business people look at read the McKinsey and Company reports or whatever and see that the ever increasing hockey stick that is the pet industry, that because we're doing our job correctly. I feel like Ginger is as the director of the Puppy Up Foundation, me as the raconteur and the traveler, sharing the dogs that I've lost to cancer and why we need to treat them with the most advanced chemotherapy that we have on the market, and you out there for pet products promoting high performance and activity for longer lifespans. We're doing our job, and we're doing a great job out there making sure that pet parents are doing a better job of taking care of the companion animals. So we see this continued uptick in the trend lines in the marketplace, that the industry gets bigger and bigger, right? I don't know if that curve line is ever going to end on how much we're spending on our pets, because we value them so much more highly in society than we did, say, back before Walk One, which was before 2008, before my journey began. So we, on the one hand, we do our job great by showing people it's important to value our companions more highly in our society. But on the other hand, people see that as a business opportunity, and they want to make a lot of money, and they don't think about things like quality control and the type of products they're putting out in the marketplace. So it is incumbent upon people like you to be a part of that quality control, to make sure our animals, our pets, are getting the best products. So the product line, but we all have to specialize. And you're right, is that you spent 20 years perfecting the craft of footwear for our pets. So everyone can't be a craftsman of every type. So Eddie's Wheels has to make the wheels and so on and so forth. So all the products that I found on your website, are they all made by you, or do you source some of them, just for clarity's purpose?
No, you know, having said that comment, I happen to be a jack of all trades. So I don't know, but what I mean to say is that, look, when you're a designer and when you know animals, I know animals, I know dogs, I know, you know, so much about all of this over the past 30 years, and that I can confidently say that I know the way they walk, they move, so I can create products for dogs, enough arm length, or making it so that it's adjustable, or making so that it's, you know, whatever the detail is, you learn it. And when you're good at something, you become good at it, and even better at it with practice. So, I mean, even the shoes, it took me a good 5 years to be able to get to the place where I started knowing what rubber to use on the sole. You know, we went from tire rubber to this rubber to PU to PR to TPR to, you know, until we came to a place where it's like, wow, this is it, right? So this is what it is. It's a bit of trial and error, but it's not at the expense of the customers or anything, because it was all equally great, but everything has a learning curve, and everything has, you know, I don't mind a product if it's coming out and it's like, okay, not so good, but then they perfected great, but are you perfecting it? This is the thing, right? Like, you have to look at the product and say, okay, what do we start with and where are we going with it? Right. So, and where I'm gone with mine, honestly, like, there really is nothing to change. I mean, I could always add bells and whistles that make it more expensive, but at the end of the day, you don't want to make it more expensive. I don't need to add an extra clip here or an extra pulley there, because it's going to shoot it out of the sky for people. They're not going to want to afford it. Right. And I guess.
But what about, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but what about peak sequins for Grayson shoes? Can you offer that level of customization?
You know what? I will take you to Michael's art store, and you can buy your little package of like sequins and glue them on yourself. How about that?
No, but you're exactly right. That's an awfully powerful statement about the beauty of the free market system, is that when you have someone that's devoted their life to trying to create a whole product line for our pets is that you want to keep making it. And what drives it, the driver behind that are our Fuzzybutts. And on that note, I happen to hear a Fuzzybutt somewhere in your house that's making a lot of noise.
My Mimi, yes, the little girl. What this because the people outside who are doing the landscaping or now it started pouring rain. I don't even know what they're doing outside. I should have opened my door to let them in.
I was going to make the joke that, you know, we are trying to do a show about Fuzzybutts. So if we could keep that Fuzzybutt quiet, that would be great. But
all good.
Bit of irony there. But what was her name? His name, Mimi?
Oh, her name is Mimi. Yeah, I had 4 dogs at the time. Well, 5 actually. Well, I had 4, and then Mimi showed up at my grooming salon one day with her owner. She's like, "Oh, can you groom my dog?" And I looked at the dog, and the dog was groomed. And I said, "But the dog's groomed. You know, it had a little bit of extra fur on its legs." I thought, okay, it's a style. "Well, it's okay. Just take it off. Take it." I says, "Okay, fine." So, you know, I charged her $25. She paid me $50 in advance. I'm like, "I don't want 50. It's only 20. No, keep the 50. I said, "Okay, great." So then, you know, 2 hours later, 3 hours later, 5 hours later, we're calling the number, it's disconnected, and she never comes back for her dog. So I guess that's why I got the $50. So, and then I got an extra dog who is Mimi.
Well, I was going to say that if she continues to make a racket back there, is that a ruckus back
I'm
there,
going to fire her.
You can always put her on your lap, and hopefully that will help her put us at ease here, since that's what our show is all about, Fuzzybutts.
All about the Fuzzybutts.
We never seem to have Ginger. We never seem to have enough Fuzzybutts here on Fuzzybutts and Friends. And as the co-host, it seems like that's something that would be your purview. That seems to be your job, right? You need to get us more Fuzzybutts, right?
Well, the problem is our Fuzzybutts or my Fuzzybutts are pretty much all too big to be in my lap.
You have some smaller sized ones. Mine.
Although, you know, we do have a Fuzzybutt that's staying with us. It's a small schnauzer. So next time, Luke, we'll have Molly will join us.
All right. Well, in the spirit of Fuzzybutts and the wonderful things that you do for Fuzzybutts, another thing that I like as well that you do. Okay, we're going to get Mimi. For those that are not watching the program, here she is, Mimi, the star of the show, the new star of the show. Ginger, can we make Mimi the host of this Zoom program? That would be great.
That would be great.
Let her take it over. Goodness, we'll probably get higher ratings, for God's sakes, in the show.
And
all right, so
Roanna muted your mic.
Oh, I did, because Luke was threatening to get rid of Mimi if she kept on barking.
No,
never.
It's a constant joke I have. It's a constant joke I have. Yeah, it's a joke I have. It's a running joke I have around here, is that when you're trying to control production on a set and you have and they have a dog making ruckus.
Impossible.
Yeah,
no, the best part is when I do my cooking shows, and oh my goodness, and then I've got all the dogs on set, and one's going this way, the other one's going that way. I'm like, not enough treats to just keep them right there beside me.
Oh yeah, Ginger forgot to remind me I should talking about firing employees or whatever. I should fire.
That's going to be a whole nother podcast.
That's another show.
That's another show.
But yes, okay, let's do that, because as you know, I'm occasionally Chef Big Dog. I'm occasionally a chef for humans, and also I do a lot of cooking for
great
for my kids. And Ginger told me that you have this wonderful cooking program. But you cook not for humans or also for companion animals?
Well, for both. The whole idea is so that they can actually, while they're cooking for themselves, they can feed their animals very easily. So a lot of times people, you know, they shy away from cooking for their dogs because it's too much work, right? Or they don't have enough time. But I show you how you can, while you're cooking for yourself, you know, you can basically feed the dog as well, you know, using certain ingredients and avoiding others. It's very simple. It's very simple.
It was funny. Years ago, I was making stew or soup, and I was using chicken. And I had the chicken, you know, I had all this stuff thrown in there. And actually, we were staying at one of our supporters' houses in the Denver area. And then I pulled the chicken out. We were at her house. And I was like, "Oh, do you have stuff? I'll just make some chicken salad." She was like, "From the same chicken?" I'm like, "Everything that I just cooked with is human food." Just like, "Oh, I never thought about that." So yeah, it was, yeah.
And then you take the carcass from the chicken that you use for your sandwiches, your chicken salad for the humans, and then you also take that and make a chicken broth. So, and you throw in the excess celery and the carrots and everything. So I am totally a firm believer that if I'm in the kitchen cooking for myself, I should find a way to give, to share the nutrients and the wonderful food that nature has to offer with my kids. And so I would love to, let's just plan this. Let's do it when I get back from walk 3, which will be in the winter time. So hopefully my calendar will be a little bit slower. I imagine yours would be as well. Let's do a joint cooking show where I can get in the kitchen, maybe you get in the kitchen, and we'll kind of cook on a Zoom thing if that's even possible.
We're definitely it is possible. We're definitely gonna do that because that's actually 100%.
So tell our audience where they can find, is it a different website, or do you have a?
Yeah, well, I've got the link on neopaws.com, but it is on YouTube. It's Healthy Cooking with Ro for you and your pets. So
okay,
Healthy Cooking with Ro.
Well, this video will go on our YouTube channel, which is Fuzzybutts.
And mine too.
Fuzzybuttsstudios.com. So we'll subscribe to yours. We'll co-subscribe, however that works.
Yeah, but I'd love to do that because the next show is actually we've got it all set up and it's almost ready to film, but we're going to be cooking with celebrities and their dogs, so which is going to be really fun, and top chefs and their dogs and animals, cats too. So yeah, because it's time, Luke. It's time we step it up.
It is. And that is, there's so much here to talk to you about. It just reminded how much I love talking to you. And I think we've had so many long conversations before, and we got to shorten the time between when we connect, because we always have a bunch of ideas. And you're right, is that it's more than just a trend in the marketplace. It is the fact that we now view companions as part of the family, and they should be every aspect of part of our family, because we live in that shared ecosystem, and everything that surrounds us also surrounds them. What goes in us also goes in them, and that includes also a toxic environment that's got all crazy politics and just craziness. So we as pet parents have to do a better job in every respect of controlling this micro environment that should be enriched and positive of our kids. So let's explore that for sure when I get back from walk 3 on so many different levels, because it is so important. Ronnie, Roanna, is there anything that I have left off on this checklist that I like to show my group, that all my crazy, I come with a list and I try to cover it all, but by the end of the episode, I can't even read my chicken scratch. So is there anything that, I know what it is. Amidst all that, all the wonderful things that you do in creating these novel technologies, these novel products for pet parents, is you also have the Paw Back Program. So talk about that, please.
So it's a program I started a bunch of years ago, and basically what we do, it's also on the website. And what I do is I offer clothing to the homeless. So not to them particularly, but to their dogs. So a lot of in Toronto on the streets, in Montreal, Chicago, New York. So I'd like to be able to link up with other associations and organizations who are doing that. Most of them give away food, right, for the animals and for the people, but we give away clothing. So I put shoes on them, I give them jackets, so that when they're sitting outside with their co-human on the streets, that they're also warm. So if they're living not, in shelters or wherever they're living, that they also are able to protect their animals at the same time. So that's the premise there. We just did a big donation to an amazing organization. Jeff leads. He's actually from New York, and he opened and built a shelter here in Toronto, in Ontario. His association is called No Dogs Left Behind. And I'm not sure if you've heard of that, but he basically goes into China and Asia and stops the trucks from taking all the stolen and bred animals to the slaughterhouse where they're going for food, to become food, for the humans. So he stops them and basically literally saves hundreds of dogs' lives from that process. So and then he brings them home and he basically rehomes them. He's got lots of people adopting them, and he ships them wherever he needs to ship them once they're in North America. So it's a beautiful thing. So we just did, for all the dogs that came in and are living outside and inside. So we did a big push for jackets and things for them as well, just to help them out. And yeah, so that's what we want to do. I mean, I'm happy to connect with anyone on that level to be able to give back.
Yeah. you know, what I've learned from my travels is that everybody has to provide an important piece to that equation. And because that the focus of the last 30 years of your life has been providing protection and safety gear to our companions, it only makes sense that that's the nature of your Paw Back program, because you're up in Canada, and my guess is temperatures, well, not my guess, I know temperatures get pretty cold down there, so you've got to protect the homeless pets up there.
Yeah, 100%. So it's nice. So I cruise the streets, and you know, I have other people who work in Toronto feeding the animals, and so we all cross link and make sure everybody's nice and warm. And of course, this is a program that I'd love to stretch across North America eventually too, which is going to happen, because I'm just working on a platform now that's going to be able to facilitate that, as well as adoptions and rescues. And so that's coming up. We'll talk about it once I launch that, but that's going to be exciting as well.
Anything we can do how to help out here at Fuzzybutts and Friends, because the one great thing about now finally having a platform, I've tried this for a couple of times, but it was never the right time to technology or for whatever reason. Now that I have this platform, we are going to look at every aspect of the life of the Fuzzybutts. How can we improve it? How can we make it better? What are the problems? How can we solve those problems? And so any aspect that you're working on, a problem for our Fuzzybutts, you're always welcome back here on our platform and program to share and spread that. So now back to that question where I realized I did leave something out before. Is there anything else, Ro, that you would like to cover here on Fuzzybutts and Friends?
Well, you know, I just feel, I feel that, you know, there's a responsibility for pet owners to become a pet owner. I know it's a trend. Everyone got like a nice purse. Everyone got a nice dog, and, you know, and everyone's kind of, we're all lonely. We're all looking for love. And, you know, we know that our little four-legged companions are essentially love muffins that want to do nothing but love us. So what I'm asking, you know, everyone, all the new pet owners, and whether you're trained and this is your first animal or not, but please look into how to make sure that your dog is getting everything it needs, not only just to satisfy you. You have to remember, it's not a selfish one-way street. It's got to be a two-way street. So while people, you know, don't leave your dog alone at home too long, don't crate it, teach it, make it intelligent, you know, go out there and get it out there and let it learn and smell and run and do what animals want to do too. Okay, so feed it right, feed yourselves right, love yourselves, love your pet. So, you know, it's a two-way street. That's all I want to say, because I see so many examples of dogs that are left alone for 12 hours a day, you know, waiting for their parents to come home from work. Dogs and animals in general, I don't care what you have, they're there. As much as they give love, they need love back. Yeah. Not only for an hour a day or 2 hours a day, not for a 10-minute walk. You know, you just do whatever you have to do to make that relationship symbiotic, so that you're giving as much as you're getting.
Absolutely. That's so powerful and important. One of the guests that I would like to have on our show is that how can we improve that communication? How can we shorten that communication gap between companion animals and humans? Because what you're saying is right, in that as pet parents, we tend to think, oh, well, they're dogs. They should be fine. They can get used to these conditions. Nature made them this way. Well, how the heck do we know? They can't tell us that. They can't tell us that, hey, no, actually, it's a little bit hot on my pads, and I bet if I keep walking out here for a little while longer, we're probably going to cause some damage here. Or it's cold outside, and my fuzzy butt's freezing, and that's going to. So because until and when we have that, all pet parents, every pet parent should be asking that question. Well, how do I know that they're not uncomfortable, that they truly are comfortable? And the default always should be is, well, let's just make them as comfortable as we have the products for, and the people that can help our companion animals comfortable. If I said that fairly well.
You did. And as far as I'm concerned, if anyone has any questions about any of the products that we sell, you're always always welcome to call our 1-888 dog shoe number, and I will help you in any way possible.
What is that number? Go ahead and give it right now.
It's 1-888 dog shoe.
Dog shoe.
Yeah, which is 364-7463.
You make it simple for Texans like me.
Yeah, right.
They're better. That's great. And also tell us again, what is the website, Ro?
So it's Neo-Paws, Neopaws.com.
Excellent. Please go there, learn everything you can, and call that number if you want to talk anything about protection, high performance, and safety for your companion animals. And that wraps up that side, that portion of this episode. And on that note, Ginger, this time of the episode, we like to have what we call the Cancer Tip of the Week, provided by Ginger Morgan, the Executive Director of the Puppy Up Foundation. Ginger, what do you have for us this episode?
Well, you know, I'm always talking about checking for lumps and bumps. And since we're pretty much focused this episode on feet and shoes, so people really need to pay attention to their dog's feet. And when to check them, spread their dog's toes out, look at their pads, look between their pads for any lumps or bumps that they might find, and then have it checked out by their veterinarian. And that is my tip for this week. Check your dog's feet.
Possum, Ginger.
Oh,
Possum.
I love it.
Check the toes. That's just one more thing to add to my increasingly crazy, busy schedule. Check the toes of my Fuzzybutts. All right, it's right there on the list. No, it is sage advice. We have to look them. You have to put your hands on them at all times because they can't tell us. So thank you, Ginger. Thank you for the Puppy Up Foundation for providing the Cancer Tip of the Week. And on that note, that concludes this episode of Fuzzybutts and Friends. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. I did want to say, I just noticed my last little note before I go. We talked about walk 3. It's in 53 days. The reason why that's relevant here on Fuzzybutts and Friends is we're trying to get as many episodes as we can in the can, because Grayson and I will be on the road backpacking for 10 weeks. And so we won't be here in Fuzzybutt Studios. We'll be on the road. So I'm not entirely sure how many episodes that we're going to get pre-recorded, depending upon how well Ginger does her job. We might have to say goodbye to our co-host. We'll see. But if we don't, I'm quite certain we'll be able to figure out how we can actually do this in our tent on the road on walk 3. So we'll figure it out. Don't you worry. We'll stay tuned for the next episode of Fuzzybutts and Friends. Puppy up. Talk soon.